Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
It is time for the weekly Radical Racing Challenge Strength of Field race. live on Apex Racing TV. Our host for this Week 9 event is Imola, a driver favourite and one of the most picturesque in all of motorsport. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. I am joined this evening by Paul Walsh in the commentary box. Jamie Fluke is operating the cameras in the background. And Paul, we head to a circuit which is going to be one of the drivers' favourites, I am sure, and I think a very good circuit as well for these radical SR10 machines. These are properly powerful cars, however they can still feel a little bit dwarfed by some of the bigger Grand Prix circuits, but around this level of track I think they should feel right at home.
Oh, indeed, Sam. And hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be in the commentary box alongside my colleague Sam. And as you say, it is the case that this circuit, with a whole variety of corners and a huge emphasis on the mastery of direction change, is going to be a circuit that will really push our drivers to the test, especially given the fact that we have multiple chicanes over the course of the lap of varying speeds and also some rather heavy braking zones where our drivers will need to get on the brakes hard, fast, and then bring the car around and rotate quickly. It's definitely going to be a tough one. And also, this circuit takes no prisoners, does it, Sam, when it comes to track limits and also some very sharp curbs?
Absolutely, and any motorsports fan knows that absolutely the pinnacle, everything that people love to hear about motorsport is track limits. We just can't get enough of it. Anyone who watches Formula 1 I'm sure will absolutely love to chat about track limits, but it is very important around this circuit because you're right that there's not particularly big sorts of deterrents around much of this circuit, particularly Piratella. It's so easy to go wide and pick up a 1x, even a slowdown potentially around a few of these corners, and so it is something that the drivers are going to have to be aware of as the first qualifying times are being set, and we are riding on board with Marchis Putnieks, who is trying to negotiate the first of those many chicanes. And well, our broadcaster Jamie Fluke did a video about this radical SR10. I'm not sure if you've got driven it too much, Paul, but I think straight away from this onboard lap you can see the understeer in these cars. Lots of steering angle needed to be input to get the car rotated around the corners, and you've got to be really patient on the throttle to make sure that you don't wash out wide through these medium speed bends.
Oh, indeed. And whilst I must admit I haven't had the chance to drive one of these SR10 machines as of yet on iRacing, it is the case with the car being very light and with a lot of power. Well, to give you an idea, it does have a horsepower to ton ratio of, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, 586 horsepower per ton, given the weight versus the horsepower of the car. And that means that, as you say, prone to understeer, particularly in those early laps, for the simple reason that you as a driver really want to carry as much speed in these machines. And it's almost as if you're driving the car on ice, for the simple reason that you'll feel as though you can carry more speed than the car can handle into each and every corner. And it's a fine balancing act in terms of carrying the right amount of speed and being aggressive on that throttle on corner exit, because at the end of the day, what the car being mid-engine rear wheel drive, it is a case that you've got to try and keep that rear planted so you can get on the power. And we see Putnieks here making his way to the timeline here, and as he rolls across the line and putting a lap together, quite a nice enter lap there as he came out of Ravazza. Let's wait and see what the time comes on him, but charging on through here, it is a case that we do see Rodriguez there putting in a time of 38.138, and more times coming in already, Sam.
Yeah, these are the first attempts being posted by the drivers, and Rodriguez super close to that pole position at the moment, but currently Aris is holding on to that one. The car number 10, of course, those numbers indicating the seeding of each of the drivers. So number 1 is the highest rated driver in the session, and then we have got 17 drivers out here tonight, so 17 the least competitive, and Graf is currently occupying that place. Loads of drivers with 1x, as you absolutely called it correct earlier on, Paul. The off-tracks very prominent around this circuit, because I think I'm seeing 5 drivers having their first laps invalidated, and of course we've only got 5 drivers on the lap, so it was only a 50% hit rate for the first times round.
Oh, indeed. And that's the thing as a driver, when you do experience one of those off tracks, it can be absolutely frustrating, particularly when you feel as though you're putting a fantastic lap together, you're pushing the boundaries, it's all going right, and then suddenly you just simply step a little bit too wide, or you just take a bit too much speed, and well, it all goes wrong, and you have to start over again. And well, it does lead to a degree of frustration, and when you've only got a limited amount of time in qualifying to set a good lap, it only adds more and more pressure, because you imagine when you go out there, you really want to hit the ground running. But we do see a couple couple more times come on in, and we do have Julius Mueller, who has set the fastest lap so far of a 37.597, and a good amount of 3/10 clear of Blanco there, it should be noted. And well, in terms of the lap times around here, Sam, it is the case that the Imola circuit, and well, having recently driven around here on iRacing, it's one of those circuits whereby lap time does suddenly come out of nowhere. And speaking of coming out of nowhere, Halliburton there setting a 37.0.
Yeah, super strong from Halliburton. He hasn't had a super kind of clean few rounds recently, but that is more of the times that we expect from him. His qualifying laps, though, are over. New drivers or new viewers to the series may not be aware that the drivers are limited to just 2 laps in qualifying, as per most of the official series in iRacing. And so a few drivers do still have lap times. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all do have lap times. Also, De Graaf, and of course this man as well, Alberto Senau, number 3 car, and he goes to the top. A driver who we have not seen in the strength of field splits in the past. He goes to the top. Great to see, by the way, John McHutchinson, former winner in the strength of field. I don't think we've seen him in this series, though, for months, honestly. I don't think in the SR10 at least, as Muller goes up into 2nd position. And wow, that is close. 7/100ths of a second. And Muller, another driver who we don't see too often, but we have seen a little bit in the past. But I think this is by far his best showing so far. I think the only man who's going to be able to challenge them is McHutchinson, and maybe Blanco as well. 4th and 5th still to put in their 2nd lap times.
Indeed, and as we ride on board here with Matt Hutchinson, the Scottish driver charging his way out of the Alta chicane and heading down towards Ravazza at this point. It's only really a kink and 2 corners to go to see if he's able to improve himself up that order there from that current P4. Nicely done there through turn number 16 as he makes his way through 17, using plenty of apex curve there to help rotate the car around and get back on the throttle as soon as possible. But you see those minute adjustments with the steering wheel. He's really got to be sensitive on that steering input, and if he does come to a timing line here, what will it be as he crosses the line? Well, we do wave the uptight on those timing screens, and it does not look to be an improvement from Hutchinson.
Yeah, it must have been a 1x because, yeah, the time didn't even pop up on the timing screen, did it? So he decided to complete the lap nonetheless, but yeah, it was not validated. Maybe, yeah, wanted to complete it just to see what he would have been able to do. We've still got Ivan Rumi, another driver, actually, apologies, Rumel. Who is another new driver to the series. Unfortunately, hasn't got enough time to complete these, or this lap at least. Something that I've recently started doing is looking at the driver information app that we have. You can go to sdk-game.co.uk in order to download it and get enter your details into that one. I've just seen John McHutchinson's favourite movies, Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas and Rush. Have you got a favourite out of those ones, Paul?
Oh, goodness me. Well, Rush always does get the blood pumping. An absolutely brilliant movie to tell a brilliant story of motorsport. I've got to pick that one. Yourself, Sam?
I feel like that should really be the answer, but I feel like Goodfellas probably would take my pick. But we will see if, yeah, we will see the, yeah, if he can live up to that tonight. Starting P4, you can see the drivers ahead of him. Alberto Senau up on pole position. His first ever strength of field race, as far as I'm aware at least, in the Radical Racing Challenge. He is ahead of Julius Muller in 2nd place. Then it is Kane Halliburton, John McHutchinson in 4th position, Rafael Blanco in 5th, the Uruguayan. Then it is Aris Papadopoulos in 6th, Glisher Rodriguez in 7th, Colin McCarthy in 8th, Kopernicki is in 9th, and Ortlos in 10th. Then it's De Graaf Pesavente in 12th, Marches Putnieks, Myron Iani, Edmund Wong, David Rolliston, and Ivan Rummel rounding out the 17 cars. Loads of new drivers, really great to see, and we've got 2 fairly strong splits tonight, so that is great to see so many drivers taking part in this Imola round of the championship. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is, I think, the most competitive grid we've had all season, Paul, because often Halliburton isn't really challenged, but I think he's going to have a tough job winning tonight.
Oh, indeed. And when that change does come, as it does here, it is the case Halliburton will now be put to the test. And starting from that 2nd row, we'll have to wait and see how he gets off the line and whether he can go for the run to turn number 2 with a kink of 1 before. But the gridding process is complete, and now we wait for the lights.
Yeah, Halliburton needs that good start. So does Sir now. Can he hold on to it? Not the easiest car to get off the line whatsoever. The 5 lights are on and away we launch at Imola. It's a strong start for the 2 guys on the front row of the grid. Strong start as well for Halliburton. He's going to have the inside line heading into turn 1, but he maybe blocks off unless Sir now is particularly late on the brakes. They'll go side by side between 2nd and 3rd, but Halliburton seems to have got the upper hand and has already cleared one of the cars ahead of him. Great news right there. Kopernicki with a strong start. He was up 3 places momentarily. He's just lost one of them back to McCarthy there, who's up a couple of places himself. Poor start for Papadopoulos and Rodriguez, however, and also poor start for De Graaf. Oh, we got a car in the wall, and that's going to spin back onto the circuit. It wipes out at least one car. I think another had to take evasive action, and that is a big disappointment. The iRacing damage model being shown off there because De Graaf's car absolutely annihilated there in the wall. McCarthy was even more hurt, and I think Ian had to take evasive action and ended up in the wall as well.
Oh, indeed, a disastrous moment there. And of course, early on in the race, with those cold tyres on our drivers really trying to get that strong start. One of them was bound to run a little bit wide coming through the Villeneuve chicane, but in the end, McAfee and De Graaf both falling victim to that instant and in the pits. But as we look to our drivers charge on through, we do see Pesavento here making his way into the Alta chicane, and well, the Italian driver trying to make the move and the charge onto Rodriguez here as they make their way now down towards the last couple of corners. But that point you were raising earlier with regards to Kopernicki having a flying start there, Sam, definitely made his way up the inside into turn number 1 and held nothing back as we see a lock up there on the brakes. I believe that may have been, that was Papadopoulos there, the American driver locking up the brakes, and look at the gap he's created to the drivers in front of us. We've almost got a 4-wide situation here.
Yeah, this could be super profitable for Ortlos, who just came across these guys. There's surely got to be a slowdown for one of these drivers. I'm not sure who it was who cut the final corner, but I think someone's going to have to get out of the throttle, surely. And yeah, it is the car just ahead of... oh, wow, it's absolutely chaos right now with drivers trying to make their ways past. Oh, dear, and that is way wide there for Ortlos, who I thought was going to be able to benefit from it a lot. He was held behind Pesavento, who was serving his slowdown. And, yeah, Ortlos absolutely just sent it up the inside. Now he's spun round as well. Fortunately doesn't spin onto circuits, and that was an absolute mess. There was another driver who cut across the grass. I think it was Papadopoulos who cut across the grass through the first chicane, and I think also lost positions in all of that. So Rodriguez may be the big beneficiary, but I think pretty much every driver in that pack made at least one mistake in all of that mess.
Indeed, it's almost as if the case the drivers are already being caught out here, and it's almost as if they haven't quite got themselves right into the rhythm right now, and that can be where opportunities do lie. But when everybody seems to be making mistakes, it then becomes a race to survival. And well, we were saying earlier about how challenging the Imola circuit is, and particularly in this type of car. And as we look up towards the front here, looking at Halliburton in particular, running in P2 and chasing down Sanal here. And Alberto Sanal had a brilliant start with Halliburton having to fight his way up into P2, but as they make their way down the hill to the last couple of corners this time around, you can definitely see how it is the case that Halliburton are already starting to put that pressure on and going on the offensive nice and early here as they roll the way out to complete their second lap of racing out of the 15, and behind Julius Müller by comparison falling off a little bit, but we ride on board here with Halliburton, Sam.
Yeah, and this is a fairly easy corner to defend round 90% of the time, but if Halliburton's got enough momentum, he might be able to muscle his way around. He's got his nose ahead. He's later on the brakes as well. Can he get it stopped? There's a little bit of opposite lock. He's on the curb, and he's almost spun it round as Halliburton. He'll surely drop down to 4th position because of that. He attempted the meet. It looks like it was going all to plan, but he just ran that little bit too wide into the Tamburello chicane. He got onto the curb, lost control, and frankly, he's lucky not to have dropped outside of the top 10 right there. He is down into 4th position as now McHutchinson in 2nd. There goes Muller, who is having to defend now from McHutchinson, who approaches from Halliburton, who I imagine is extremely frustrated right now.
Oh, indeed. And when you make that mistake after batting for the lead, you want to go in as quickly as possible and make your way up the field again. And he goes round the outside of what is Miller through Piratella. A nice move there, a classic move round the outside. And a bit further back here, we look to the battle for what is P10, P11 between Putnieks and Rolliston here. Rolliston was one of those drivers who got it wrong when we saw the major incident down at the Tamburello chicane on lap number 2. And Putnieks at this point having to go a little bit defensive here, feeling a bit of pressure from Rolliston. And they've got one closing up as as well as the trio make the way up towards the Alta chicane, but it doesn't look as though there's going to be any move this time. It looks as though all three drivers having to just settle into the rhythm and run line astern in the run down towards Ravazza corner. And in fact, there, Rolliston really losing a lot of time through the chicane. I think just taking it a bit sensitive there and not trying to clamber over the curbs. We've already seen how those raised curbs can really clip the front end of the Radical SR10, and when they do, they can upset the car completely as the drivers roll the way out of the final two corners and onto the start-finish straight. But definitely, it looks like that final spot in the top 10 falling away from the rest of the top 10 and falling back into the clutches of the drivers behind, as meanwhile, side by side here between Wes Papadopoulos and Pesavento.
Yeah, and that is Pesavento moving back past. So remember, Pesavento got a slowdown earlier on. I think he was trying to get past Papadopoulos actually when he tried to make that move. Cut across the final corner, got a slowdown on lap one. That's really hurts you. And now he's trying to make his way back through. He actually had a poor qualifying as well. He only qualified in P12. He's the car number 4. Is Pesavento, so very impressive iRacing, and so he should really be a fair bit further up the field. Next up for him is Rodriguez, and you can see visually he's making up time. In fact, he just set the fastest lap of the race to Pesavento. Honestly, a massive shame that he's not up there in the top 5. They didn't qualify up in the top 5 because I think he may have had a chance at this race win. Hopefully we'll see him later on in the season where he can, if he can nail that qualifying, he could definitely be a threat for podiums. Iani is catching up to Ramul, 2 new drivers to the series, and Ramul currently up 4 places, started in last actually. Oh, as Kopernicki, after that great start, he has had a problem. I think he's spun at the Variante Alta and has lost just 2 positions there, so it's not too negative for him, but he's got Papadopoulos now on his tail.
Indeed, as they roll the way down the hill here, Kopernicki will have to get himself back up to rhythm as quickly as possible, as we do see Pesavento there going up the inside of Rodriguez for P6, making the charge still, but now it's the long run down the start-finish straight here, and whilst it kinks from right to left, it is the case that Pesavento will have to go defensive here. He hooks the car to the inside, then brings it to the middle, forcing Rodriguez to have to go around the outside in the charge down towards the Tamburello chicane. They battle on the brakes here, with Pesavento trying to go as late as possible to cover off the centre row, cover off the entry to Apex. He does so very well and brings the car together. Nice defence there, and what this will now do is essentially cause the drivers behind to gradually Constantina up, as we do see Papadopoulos here really trying to look for the move versus Kopernicki in the run to Villeneuve. But the run to Villeneuve, you need to be side by side initially going into the chicane, otherwise it's not really feasible as they make the way up into the toe, so hairpin. But all 4 drivers here, all within a good chance of battling for that P6 position, but they are then 5 seconds off of the top 5, with P5 driver Blanco running off into the distance. But as they charge up the hill right now, and we see Blanco meanwhile making his way coming through Piratella and down into Aquaminarale. You can see how Blanco is gradually creeping up to the back of Mueller, and in this case Blanco's had a relatively quiet start to his race. Sam hasn't gained any places, but he hasn't got into any trouble. He seems to be managing this one.
Yeah, I thought he was going to drop back from these drivers earlier on, but actually his past few laps have been very strong. On that last lap he was, well actually on that last lap he did lose some time, but it's not been too bad. This first sector actually of this lap he managed to gain a fair bit of time. This was how Halliburton managed to get past McHutchinson for P2. We didn't see this one live, but this was fairly comfortable. McHutchinson's a quick driver, well a smart driver and a quick driver, and so he decided not to fight that one. He knows his best chance at winning this race, frankly, is by letting Halliburton go. And well, maybe something will happen between Sanao and Halliburton, and that might allow McHutchinson to take another race victory. Just looking at Blanco's profile once again, his nickname is Shonazan. I'm not sure what that one means. I don't know if anyone could translate that one for us, but Shonazan is Blanco's nickname apparently on iRacing, and his favourite car, the Radical SR8. So probably wasn't best pleased when the SR10 was introduced, but I think he's adapted quite well to it.
Oh, indeed, he's definitely showing that in terms of the adaptation and putting those laps in. I'm not quite sure about the nickname, the meaning there, but as you say, perhaps it's the case that somebody can clarify it for us. But in the meantime, we look at Papadopoulos here in that P9 position, chasing it down Kopernicki still, and as we ride on board here, it is the case as he rises up into the Piratella corner once more. You can see how Kopernicki there just going a little bit deep into the corner, and the rear of the car starting to step out. And these cars, Sam, they go through an interesting transition over the course of the race. They start off quite quite understeer prone. But as the laps go on, they start to enter a comfort zone, and in the final laps, they go more towards the oversteer. And perhaps we're seeing some drivers who are just starting to feel the rear of the car want to step out a little bit more. Because it does look as though Kopernicki right now running quite on the limits. We see him drifting his way through the auto chicane there.
Yeah, it certainly is the case. When we're seeing it at Phillip Island, I think, was absolutely crazy, where once you overheated the tyres, you were not going to cool them back down. So you had one slide, and that was pretty much your race wrecked. And around this circuit, without too many long straights, that is going to be very prominent once again. A little bit wide there for Kopernicki, just missed the apex slightly of that final corner, and it's going to hurt him for the majority of this front bend, I guess. If you're going to call it. By the way, 3k strength of field, as someone was asking in the YouTube chat, as well, this is very simple. Not much of a competition there from Kopernicki. Again, another smart driver realised that he's going to lose out. Maybe if that was on lap 15, he'd try to bend that one off. But let Papadopoulos go, who is up into 8th position. And Kopernicki's great start, slightly being undone, albeit, oh, he's almost able to come back into the Villeneuve chicane. Very slow all of a sudden there, Rodriguez. For Papadopoulos, apologies.
Oh, indeed, Papadopoulos there, looking at a little bit slow in the run, but I think feeling safe there, as you say, with Kopernicki being a smart driver. But meanwhile, going from our drivers battling in the midfield to our race leader right now, and that is Alberto Senao. And it is the case, as we see there using the graphic in the bottom right corner of the screen, the gap between what is Senao and Halliburton gradually oscillating back and forth. It hasn't really closed up too much. It is currently standing at 2.0 seconds. Well, in fact, it was 2.1, but now 2.0. But Senao definitely managing the pace of this race, and I think trying to manage the car over the distance in, knowing that we're almost at the halfway point. And as they roll the way down the hill once again here, I think Senao knows that he's in control. He can determine in terms of how much Halliburton's got to push, and there's no doubt that Halliburton will be giving it everything he can to close up to the race leader. But when you are the chaser here rather than the one being chased, Sam, it's the case, would you not agree that you've got to really give it everything? It's almost as if you've got to go beyond your 100%, find that 105%, and that leaves you prone to over pushing the car, over driving it, and that's where Halliburton right now has to tread a very fine line. Meanwhile, so now he can think to himself, okay, the gap's come down by a 10th, as it has over the course of the last lap, so now I've just got to perhaps up it by 1% by comparison.
Yeah, you're absolutely right when it comes to the mentalities of each of these drivers. I must say, I'd probably rather be Senao right now, but I wouldn't mind being Halliburton because it just takes the pressure off, particularly around this circuit. It's a very tricky, fairly narrow circuit, high curbs, and like you were saying earlier on, it's a circuit that you can find just unlock half a second of pace very quickly. So, if Halliburton pressure's off, he can be really aggressive out there, and it might enable him to catch up that gap. It is coming down slightly each lap at the moment. They are in a class of their own, really, the top two comfortably faster than everyone else out on circuit right now. A quick shout out, by the way, to SDK Gaming, the providers of our overlay that you see up on screen, the battle box in the bottom right. We also had the gaps graphic not too long ago, and you've also got the timing tower. We also use the live timing here in the when we're commentating, and also you can use SDK as a driver heads-up display as well. It's got a fuel calculator and lots of elements to help you pull off the correct strategy when it comes to a race. So do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk in order to get yourself a subscription, and also do type in some details in that driver information app, so we get to know a little bit more about you if you do race in one of our series or in any of the official series, and then we can highlight your favourite movies as we did earlier on. Very valuable stuff. Kopernicki. It's turning into quite a long race for Kopernicki. I imagine you wish that the race ended after about lap 2, because he's sort of just falling back a bit now. Putnieks is the next up.
Oh, indeed, as we ride on board here, looking back from Kopernicki, and Putnieks trying to put that pressure on in the run to Tamburello. It is the case there, Putnieks starting to just take a little bit of a peek, thinking about where can he go for the potential move. You can see getting the better run out of the opening chicane. The gap holds at 2 attempts right now. But here's the thing for Kopernicki, he's now probably got his mind more on what's behind him, because we see him there missing the apex in the run into Villeneuve, and that causes him to lose the momentum out the corner. And now it's the case Kopernicki's going to go defensive on the inside into the Tosa hairpin, and Well, a brilliant cutback attempt here from Putnieks. They roll the way up the hill now, and Putnieks is definitely going to have to charge up the hill on the inside. They will be too wide as they make the way into the braking zone for Piratella here. Can Putnieks hold it up the inside? He's going to go tight to the line there, and he's able to get the move done. A very nice move there from Putnieks. He's up into P9. His next target will be Papadopoulos, who is only 1.5 seconds up the road, but Putnieks there definitely showing the best way to make a move after Villeneuve.
Absolutely. I mean, that was textbook stuff, isn't it? I mean, that's the type of overtake that it doesn't usually happen. But yep, just force the driver to go defensive. You take the normal racing line, you get a cutback earlier on the power, and it's easy into the next corner. So lovely working. He's already pulled out a few car lengths. 38.47 that last time out for Putniks. It was probably held up a fair amount. I think he could get Papadopoulos perhaps by the end. I mean, just visually, you can see him actually making up time on Papadopoulos at the moment. Rodriguez is a fair bit ahead of those drivers. He is not going to catch up to them. And then, of course, Pesavento, who's got very good pace again. I mean, we've already said it before. We've already demonstrated that Pesavento's laps are very good. I don't know if you could actually get the graphic up compared to, like, the leader, the gap graphic to the leader. I don't know if that's possible, to be fair. But basically, what I'm saying is that the gap to the leader hasn't changed much for Pesavento since the early laps. If it weren't for that 12th position in qualifying, he would have been right there, because I think he's been the third fastest man out on circuit on the most part this evening. As well, lovely stuff there from Jamie Fluke, and you can see, yeah, just 0.3 of a second compared to the race leader. So on most laps, so yeah, really strong stuff there from Pesavento. He might get to Blanco by the end of the 15 laps.
Well, indeed, with the way it's going at the moment, over the last couple of laps, well, that last lap he was able to strip just under half a second out of Blanco in P5. He will need to bring that gap down just a little bit more aggressively if he does want to give himself plenty of time to go for the move, with the laps counting down. But Pesavento here, it is the case. I think he knows what he's hunting and he's motivated by it. And whilst qualifying didn't work out, he will be thinking about how can he redeem himself. And meanwhile, Blanco here finds himself in a bit of a difficult place. In front of him, only 4 attempts up the road, is Julius Mueller here, and he'll be battling with him for P4 come the finish. But at the same time, there may just be a little bit of worry over his shoulder. He may every so often look in his rear view mirror and be thinking, well, is that the driver behind? Is he getting closer? And indeed he is. Objects do appear larger in their mirror than they seem sometimes. But in the case of Pesavento, that's because he's deploying the pace. Meanwhile, for Alberto Senao here, the gap continues to come down between our leader and second place driver Halliburton, now down to 1.4 seconds almost, as they make their way through the opening chicane and down towards Villeneuve. And we see there the comparison of lap times, and it does look as though, Sam, here it is one of those cases whereby Halliburton, that last lap just losing out a little bit, but the general trend is the gap is coming down and Halliburton is going all in with only 4 laps left on the clock.
Yeah, for those viewers who only joined us midway through, Halliburton was ahead at one point. He was ahead for about 5 seconds. He went round the outside, I think, on lap 3 of the race at the Tamburello chicane, and seemed to pull off the move perfectly. I mean, really nice stuff. Got his nose ahead before the braking zone broke much later. Just ran the tiniest bit wide, and I think got a wheel on the grass that forced him over the curb. He nearly spun round. He managed to keep it in a straight line. Momentarily dropped down to 4th. Has it been able to get back up to 2nd place? And yeah, that gap, as you were saying before, has on the most part been coming down most laps. So yeah, that is the state of play at the moment. Still Senao, I think, the favourite right now, but Halliburton may just have one opportunity later on in the race to come back. Ortlov's catching up to Wong very quickly. This is, well, he's going to be caught basically. And he should be able to make the move as well with that pace advantage for Ortlov's. So looking very strong for him right now. Another shout out, by the way, to Apex Racing Academy, another sponsor for this series. Apex Racing Academy offering 29 data packs. 8 data packs including track guides and setups and solo coaching sessions, and also group coaching sessions as well for many different cars on iRacing. So yeah, if you want to get faster in rallycross cars, single seaters, prototypes, touring cars, do visit apexracingac.com, where you can get tuition for some of the best drivers in all of iRacing.
Indeed, and well, it is the case that some of our drivers here may have used some of that tuition to bring themselves up to the level they're racing at today. And well, when Edmund Wong is caught, we believe he'll be caught by Ortlovs here. Will it be the case that he could provide a defensive masterclass in defending versus Ortlovs, or will it be as straightforward as we predict for Ortlovs? We'll have to wait and see. But as we do look to our P9 driver here, Oliver Putnieks, continue to run very close behind Papadopoulos here. The gap between the two of them just over half a second, but with limited time remaining now, Putnieks, I definitely feel, is starting to feel the pressure of needing to make the move. He's getting close, but he's not able to get close enough to try and force the issue as they roll the way through Piratella. But just in this instance, Sam, when you are that hunting driver here, I must admit, I prefer to be the hunted rather than the hunter. But when you are the hunting driver, the clock's winding down, you've only got a couple of laps left. What do you do to try and avoid making mistakes, particularly in such a sensitive car such as the SR10?
Well, I mean, as Ian has actually just got past Rolston, he's trying to steal my thunder. I was just about to say how I won the BSR Radical Winter Series Championship, which I'm sure you'll learn very much that I like to occasionally mention that, Paul, every now and again. And unfortunately, I didn't win a race for the entire season. That's a remarkable thing about 36 races, didn't win a race, as that was the mistake there for Rolston. But he got a slow down as well for that one. And so I'm not really the one to say, it's basically my very long-winded point. But yeah, just, I mean, making sure that you hit your markers. And I think it's always important as well to like practice when you're practicing. When you're practicing that you are in a race, it's very easy to sort of just throw caution to the wind in practice, and then you get into the race winning situation or the leading position, and you all of a sudden realize that actually your driving lines aren't like sustainable, aren't safe. And then you have to kind of come up with something brand new at that point, because you realise that you were spinning every 3 laps in or in practice, and that's fairly pointless come the race. So it's all about that preparation, really, I think, to make sure that you're comfortable with the car, that you've got some confidence. Halliburton is very confident right now. Gap down to quarter of a second. We've got 2 more laps to go after this one.
Well, indeed, as we look back here from our race leader, that gap has come down dramatically over the last couple of laps, and Halliburton on the verge of making a move here in the run down towards Ravazza corner. Now you can see this now definitely defending to the inside as they make the way into the downhill king. Into turn number 16 they go, battle on the brakes. Now finds himself on that inside line, defending well. Halliburton there just hooks it behind. He's looking for the run down towards turn number 2. And again, it will feel like deja vu right now. We were here a number of laps ago, and it was the case. Snell was leading. Halliburton was on the offensive, and will we see Halliburton made to go around the outside again, as we see Snell defends to the inside. It's definitely deja vu vibes as they make the way into the braking zone for the Tamburello chicane. Halliburton goes later on the brakes. He goes round the outside, but this time he brings it together, but they're side by side still as they make the way out to the opening chicane. So now just still ahead. He's on the inside in the run down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Batting on the brakes once more. Halliburton tries to go round the outside to inside here. It's now biting stuff as they come through the right-hander. They're still battling as they make the way up towards Tosa, but right now Snell definitely making himself as wide as possible and getting the momentum he needs to stay alive in the lead of the race. He knows, I think, that if Halliburton gets ahead, he'll try and run away with it with only 2 laps to go, including this one. But as they charge up towards Piratella now, it looks though, Sam, that Halliburton's shown his first signs, but no way through this time.
Yeah, and in all of that as well, just before that all kicks off, Putnieks was able to get past Papadopoulos. But great racing from the front too, in all of that. I mean, they could have so easily just shoved each other off the track. It's a really narrow circuit, particularly around those couple of corners. And so you can just, you know, turn out of the steering and, you know, just force your guy onto the grass. But they genuinely made an effort to not hit each other. We'll see if that stays sustainable for the final lap of the race, or whether they just decide to absolutely go for it. Halliburton's a little bit further behind into the Ravazzas this time round, but I think he's still going to have a very good chance. The gap, I think, coming out of this corner on the last lap was about 0.21. This time it's closer to 0.25, so he'll be alongside, but I don't think he's necessarily going to get ahead this time, Paul.
No, I don't think so. I think he's decided to play this one a little bit safer in terms of trying to set up the move as the white flag is out. It is the final lap, but Halliburton looks the outside this time. But as you say, just a little bit further back on the brakes, but it's going to be very close. There's a bit of a door rub between the two of them there, but that was very close to the house. And how they both made it through that with only very light contact, well, I think that's only what they can describe, but very, very close. And Halliburton, with a brave move, takes the lead of the race.
Well, if you don't succeed the first time, try again. And if you don't succeed that time, try once more. And that is what Halliburton has done. Brilliant stuff. Final lap overtake. and that is going to be super satisfying for him. And that was cool. I mean, that was a nice move from what we saw, sliding his way along. Didn't overheat the tyres too much though, and was able to keep control. Putnieks and Papadopoulos actually back ahead of Putnieks then, so that is good news for him. I don't know if Putnieks maybe made a mistake. Yeah, not 100% sure on that one, but yeah, they are very close for 8th and 9th positions at the moment. But in the lead, Halliburton's just got one more sector to go. And wow, this is going to be some race victory for him, because he was only qualified in P3, wasn't far off pole position. I think it was within a 10th of pole position, in fact. Just missed out, had some adversity, didn't help himself too much in those early stages, but that was some charge. Lap after lap after lap he puts in, was able to close the gap, and he didn't succeed the first time, didn't succeed the second time, he made it the third time. And it will be a race win for the car number 1. Kane Halliburton wins in the Radical Racing Challenge here at Imola. That was some performance. So now, hopefully we see more of Sanao, his first appearance on this broadcast. And he finishes in a very good effort. P2 really maximised, honestly. His effort did absolutely nothing wrong there, did the Iberian driver. Gleischer Rodriguez will finish in 7th place. Papadopoulos will beat Putnieks across the line. And the rest of the drivers are fairly spread out. Don't expect there to be any moves in the closing stages. Ian with a mistake on that last lap, I think, dropping behind Wong. So he is catching a little bit, but I think that will be settled for 12th and 13th positions. I think honestly the race of the season, you picked a good one to pop in for tonight, Paul, because that was so intense, race long battle. We always knew Halliburton had a chance, but it was only on that last lap that he was able to fully realise it.
Oh, indeed. A fantastic race and an absolutely radical move, dare I say, from Halliburton right at the end. I'll go get my coat now. But also, I must say, Matt Hutchinson there coming home in P3. A bit of a silent race after an energetic start, but a good P3, well-deserved. And, well, we'll have to wait and see how he continues to push on in the remainder of the season. But it's Halliburton's day as we look to the standings there. And Halliburton taking that win by 6 attempts in the end ahead of Sanao. And, well, Matt Hutchinson there completes the podium with Julius Müller and Rafael Blanco completing the top 5. Pesavento, Rodriguez, Papadopoulos, Putnieks and Kovanicki complete that top 10. But brilliant racing all the way round, whether it's at the front of the field or indeed in the midfield, Sam. Definitely plenty to watch out for, and it's really set the tone for the final third of the season.
Definitely, yeah. I think the drivers as well, and I've been banging on about it for the entire season, so maybe the viewers are a bit bored of it by now, but I've been saying throughout that the drivers will get the hang of this car. It is such a tricky car to drive, is this one. It takes a while to get used to. Also, you've got the kind of fixed setup as well, so you can't necessarily customize it for your own driving style. And yeah, the drivers have really struggled with it in the first few weeks, but I think every week we are watching the drivers get better and better. We've been to a lot of tricky circuits as well, actually, this season, and so it is properly been baptisms of fire in this new car. But yeah, the competitiveness tonight, I think, reaching the highest level we have seen all season long. Now. And unfortunately, Paul, you'll realise this one fairly soon. We always have this same predicament where they're very shy drivers in this series. They don't like to have a chat with us. I'll take this quick opportunity. Oh, well, actually, we are going to have an interview actually in just a moment. I will just quickly give a shout out there to one of our other sponsors for this series, Virtual Racing School. Virtual Racing School offering over 50 data packs for many different cars. Those include setups, track guides, their data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Particularly their data analysis software is absolutely superb at Virtual Racing School, making it possible to compare your telemetry to the telemetry of a pro-level driver. So do check out virtualracingschool.com in order to get yourself a subscription. And well, I think this is the first time in about 6 rounds actually that we've had an interview, which is absolutely terrific stuff. We will jack him up in. Kane Halliburton joins us in the comms box. Kane, what a good result that was for you. What a drive it was. That must be feeling very satisfying right now.
For sure. I didn't think I would get him for a while there. My tyres were pretty burnt up. But yeah, I just decided to send it not worry about the tyres, and I think he was struggling at the end too, which helped a lot.
I think on that last lap you were actually less ahead going into the braking zone than you were on your other 2 attempts into Tamburello. I mean, did you do something different on that last lap to make the move stick?
Yeah, I was just playing it really safe on the earlier laps, just giving myself some room for error. And on the last lap, obviously, it was my last chance, so I squeezed him as much as I dared, braked a little bit later, got on power a little bit earlier, and luckily it worked out.
And how have you been finding driving this SR10 so far? I mean, obviously you've always been like the fastest driver in it, but do you feel like you're yourself, even though you're already the fastest driver, do you feel like you're learning more and more about the car, or do you feel like within the first few weeks you pretty much had, you know, you pretty much sussed it out?
Yeah, I feel like I figured it out pretty early on. Yeah, I think there might be some changes to the setup and the tyres next season, so might have to relearn a few things. We'll see.
Yeah, potentially. And I mean, you mentioned the tyres before, how they sort of were overheating near the end. Is there a way to like not make them overheat, or is it just something that you've sort of just got to deal with when it comes to the second half in the race in this car?
Yeah, right now it's pretty unavoidable. All you can do is try to minimize it by driving a little bit off pace, smooth as possible, but I didn't really have that option this race, so luckily Imola isn't too hard on tyres. I think if this was someone like Suzuka, there's no way I would have caught him. But yeah, it's fun chasing out down Alberto.
Absolutely. I mean, have you raced against Alberto much before? Because we haven't seen him in the strength of field race in the past.
I've raced against him a couple times in the SR10, SRA, and a few other cars, but I think, yeah, this is the first time he's joined the broadcast.
And the next round of the championship is going to be Hockenheim. What do you think that car, or how do you think the car is going to react to that circuit? Do you think that's a good mix, and do you think it's going to be quite a slipstream fest, or possible to make gaps like we saw today?
I think it will be possible to make gaps. The second half will be quite difficult in this car, especially as the tyres really warm up. But I think it might suit it. We'll have to see. I haven't done any laps yet.
Well, I'm sure you'll be near the top once again, Kane. Congratulations on another race victory. I haven't actually checked the series scores, but I'm sure you're absolutely miles ahead, and you'll get yourself another series championship this iRacing season. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, shout out Apex Racing TV for the broadcast, the Radical community, especially Dave, for putting the broadcast together, and also my new team, Apex Tech Racing Supply.
Awesome. We've commentated on Apex Tech in a few other series, and they're always a very good bunch. So yeah, cool that you're involved with those guys. We will see you back next week, Kane.
Sure. See ya.
Kane Halliburton there, your race winner this season. I think that's the first time I've had a chat with Kane this season, actually, which I think sort of demonstrates, Paul, that he was very happy with that one, because usually when Kane wins by 5-10 seconds, it's like, you know, not much to talk about. But tonight, I think he was a bit more willing to chat about that race, because it was such a good performance.
Oh, indeed, a stellar performance from Kane. I must admit, when he was clarifying about the fact that on the final lap he really had to go all in with that move, and we definitely saw how all in it was. He tried to play it safe the first 2 times, but as you said, Sam, at the end of the race there, the third time was the charm, and Kane, I think at that point, decided, right, it's now or never, I've got to do it. And well, that goes to show you why he is one of the favourites in this series, in the fact that he's found that balance of the car in terms of running outright pace, 9 wins to protect the car, and also when he needs to make those moves, being able to commit to them and getting it done.
next round of the championship, of course, is going to be Hockenheim. Paul, do you think? I mean, Kane already gave us a little bit of information what he thought. You know, with the difficulty of the second half of that track. But yeah, have you got any kind of expectations when it comes to the SR10 round that historic circuit?
I think we could see a lot of battling, particularly in the run all the way down to the Turn 6 hairpin at the Grand Prix Baden-Württemberg circuit. But beyond that, I think it's going to be a balance of slipstream in the opening half of the lap, and particularly in the stadium towards the end of the lap. Expect a lot of rear ends of the SR10s to slide about, particularly as we go deep into the race, because there are a lot of tricky trail-breaking corners.
Yeah, and as far as I recall, at least, it's not the grippiest circuit either. And I think with iRacing using all the real-life dates, like matching that up with the official series, is going to be warm as well, as we've probably got used to be fair, by this point. So, yeah, that is going to be a tricky one for the drivers. Of course, if you are listening to this, or if you're watching this, and you think that car looks quite fun, go drive it. Unfortunately, you have to pay for this one. The SR8 was free. It's not. I don't think it's even free anymore. It's the SR8, unfortunately. But the SR10, you do have to pay. I think it's $10.95. I think to purchase it, but it's well worth it. Do give it a go. It's a fixed setup series, of course, this one, so it's really easy to get, or it's really easy to know at least that you are running the exact same setup as the absolute best drivers in this car. You know that you've got the same setup as Kane Halliburton, and it leaves you to just adjust your driving style. Like I was saying before, it is a tricky car, a lot of power, not very heavy whatsoever, and a decent amount of understeer. But once you get it dialed in, it can be a lot of fun, can this Radical SR10. So do give the official series a go. And of course, Hockenheim, a circuit that everyone knows very well, would probably be a very good start. So that pretty much wraps us up then for this evening on Apex Racing TV. Of course, there are plenty more races coming up on Apex Racing TV over the next few days. We've got the season finale of the Apex Racing Academy Formula 4 Championship tomorrow. We've also got the Formula 3.5 official series. We have got the Fighting Speed Championship as well in the GT3s, I believe. Also on Sunday we've got IGP Fun, we've got Spec Racer Ford. On Monday we have got Vic Maytech, I believe. We've got another round at Apex Racing League GT3 Trophy on Tuesday. We've got AOA Porsche on Wednesday. Loads of stuff for both North American and European audiences. So do give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. Also check out our social media pages as well. We put up some cool kind of in-sim footage videos of some of our broadcasts, which are, I think, worth viewing. Honestly, like a Last to First challenge and whatnot. So do check out our social media pages for all of that. And also a big shout out to Virtual Racing School, Apex Racing Academy and SDK Gaming for sponsoring this broadcast. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Paul Walsh and from Jamie Fluke, we are going to say goodbye, and we'll see you back next week at the Hockenheim Ring. See you then.